All right, so we're going to work on Saxon Math Lesson 62. This is the lesson practice for Lesson 62. Before you start, you want to make sure that you've read pages 399 through page 401. Okay, make sure you read that before we start. Okay, so we're going to start today by multiplying three numbers together. It does not matter which direction you multiply these numbers. You can multiply 2 times 3, 3 times 4, 4 times 3, 3 times 2. It doesn't matter as long as you will multiply them all. So we're going to start by multiplying 2 times 3. 2 times 3 equals 6. Okay, so now we've solved this part of the problem. Now we're going to solve by adding the 4 to the multiplication. So we're going to do 6, because 2 times 3 was 6, and we're going to multiply that times 4. So we took this 6 and we moved it down here, because that was this part. Okay, and then we can just solve 6 times 4, which equals 24, and we circle our answer. 6 times 4 is 24. So 2 times 3 times 4 equals 24. I'm going to go ahead and move on to number B. This one's kind of fun. This is a little bit easier than the last one. You could do 10 times 4 and then do the answer to that question, or the product for that 4 times 10 times 3. But the easiest way to do it would be to solve the one digits first, and then multiply by 10. Because when you multiply by 10, all you got to do is add a 0. So we're going to go ahead and do 3 times 4, and that equals 12. Now we're going to take 12 times 10. And all we've got to do for that, since this is a multiply by 10, is we need to write 12 and add 1 0. That 0 goes there. So our answer is 120. Moving on to problem C. Okay, now we're dealing with exponents. So this problem, 8 to the second power, or 8 squared, is simply 8 times 8. And this number here tells us how many times we're going to multiply 8 times itself. So there's 2 there, so we're going to multiply 8 times itself twice. So 8 times 8, which is 64. Moving on to D. This one here has a 3 here, so that is 3 to the third power, or 3 cubed. And what that's saying, that number 3 there, that little tiny one, is it's saying that we're going to multiply 3 times itself 3 times. So we've got 3 times 3 times 3. So that was 1, 2, 3 times, just like this number here shows us. Okay, so make sure that you do that. If we had like 3 to the fourth, it would be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. If we had a 5 there, 3 to the fifth power, it would be another 5. Or excuse me, another 3 added to the end. So we're going to go ahead and solve 3 times 3 times 3. Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to solve 2 of them, and then I'll take that product and multiply it times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. So that goes there. And then this one here, we're going to add down here. So 9 times 3 equals 27. Circle our answer. All right, let's go to E. Okay, now we're going to take this up a notch, and we're going to subtract exponents. So first thing we need to do is we need to take 10 squared, or 10 to the second power. I'm going to write that down. That is 10 times 10. And then we're going to take that answer, whatever it is, and we're going to subtract it from 6 squared, or 6 to the second power, which is 6 times 6. So we're going to solve these, and then we're going to find the difference. So 10 times 10, that is 100. And we're going to subtract 6 times 6 from 100, which is 6 times 6 is 36. So we've got 100 minus 36. Now we could solve that in our head, maybe. I would do that by subtracting 40 from 100, which would give me, so we do 100 minus 40, that equals 60. And then I would add 4 more because 40 is 36 more than 40 is 4 more than 36. So we're going to go ahead and add 4, which gives us 64, which is our answer. That's how you can do it in your head. You can also do 100 minus 36 like this vertically if you want to. I can't take 6 away from 0, so I'm going to borrow from my tens place, but there's no number to borrow there. It's nothing, so I need to borrow from a hundreds place. So if I borrow 100, that leaves me with 0 hundreds. And if 100 that I borrowed would be 10 tens. Now I can borrow one of those, so I'm going to make that 9. And one of those tens would be 10 ones. So I can now take 6 ones away from 10 ones, and that leaves me with 4. I can take 3 tens away from 9 tens, which leaves me with 6. And there's no hundreds, so this is also my answer. And these match, so we're good to go. Let's go to F. Okay, so this one here we've got 3 squared minus 2 cubed, or 3 to the second power minus 2 to the third power. So 3 to the second power would be 3 times 3. And then we're going to subtract that from 2 times 2. Oops, I'll use x times 2. Well, 3 times 3 is easy. That's 9. And we're going to subtract it from 2 times 2 times 2. So let's do 2 times 2. Let's do this part first. That's 4. And then we can multiply that times 2, which gives me 8. So 9 minus 8 equals 1. That one wasn't too bad. And let's go ahead and go to G. This one says, rewrite this expression using exponents. Well, we have 4 times 4 times 4 with 4 multiplied times itself 3 times. We've got 1, 2, 3 4s multiplied by themselves. So the number we're multiplying is 4, and our exponent would be how many times it's multiplied by itself. So it's 3. So this answer is 4 to the third power, or 4 cubed. And then finally we've got 1 here at the end that wants us to do a little bit more work. It says, write a formula for finding the area of a square. Then use the formula to find the area of a square with each side 6 inches long. Okay, so let's start by drawing a square. And we know that a square has 4 equal sides. I'm marking these little lines to show that all those sides are equal. And we're going to be working with 6, so we'll just pretend that this is 6. So if this side is 6, then this side would be 6, this side would be 6, and this side would be 6. And we know that when we find the area for a rectangle, we multiply the length times the width to get the area. That's for a rectangle. And all squares are rectangles, so that would work. But we could make that simpler because we know that all the sides for a rectangle are the same, or excuse me, all the sides for a square are the same. So I could use a simpler formula than that. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to write a new one. So the area for a square is simply a side, one side. Oops, I'm using the wrong thing. So it's one side, one of these sides here, squared, because it's length times width. So I'll show you here. So if this was the length and this was the width, we would do length times width. Well, those numbers are always the same in a square. These equal each other. So we don't need to do length times width. We just need to do one side squared. So the area for a square can be found by multiplying one side times itself, or s squared. So using this number, like we wrote it here over here, we can say that the area for this square would be 6 squared, which would be 6, the length times the width, 6 times 6. So area equals 6 squared. 6 times 6 equals 36. And we need to make sure we label this. So it's 36, since it's an area, it is going to be square. Oops, I didn't write that right. Let me erase that. It's going to be square, and it says inches right here, so we're going to write inches. Another way you could write that is 36 inches squared. Either of these answers would work. All right. And that's it for lesson 62.